I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senator Chuck Schumer announced Thursday that next week the Senate would vote on whether or not to codify a woman's right to seek an abortion. Responding to what he called a, quote, abominable decision in the leaked draft opinion, Schumer warned that women's rights were facing their greatest threat in generations. He blasted Republican laws that have restricted abortions in red states and vowed that Democrats will do everything they can to prevent further erosion of abortion rights. Let's listen in to the Senate Majority Leader.
Now, if a conservative majority on the Supreme Court proceeds with their abominable decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, the rights and the freedoms of every woman in this country will face their greatest threat in generations. Let's be clear. This is what the Republicans want. It is in the laws Republican politicians have passed across the country. But the American people are not on their side. Today, I am announcing that next week, the U.S. Senate is going to vote on legislation to codify a woman's right to seek an abortion into federal law. Let me repeat that. I am announcing that next week, the U.S. Senate is going to vote on legislation to codify a woman's right to seek an abortion into federal law. I intend to file cloture on this vital legislation on Monday, which was set up a vote for Wednesday. All week, we've been seeing Republicans try to duck, dodge, and dip from their responsibility for bringing Roe to the brink of total repeal. That's what they've been trying to do for decades. Next week, the American people will see crystal clear that when given the chance to right this wrong, the Republican Party will either side with the extremists who want to ban abortion without exceptions or side with women and with families and with the vast majority of Americans. Next week's vote will be one of the most important we ever take because it deals with one of the most personal and difficult decisions a woman ever has to make in her life. This is not an abstract exercise. My fellow Americans, it's as real and as urgent as it gets. Like my friend Patty Murray has said, this is a five-alarm fire. Senate Republicans spent years packing our courts with right-wing judges. Will they now own up to the harm they've caused, or will they try to undo the damage? The vote next week will tell. Let me say that again. Republicans spent years under Leader McConnell pushing right-wing judges to lifetime appointments to the bench. They stole the nomination of Merrick Garland, changed the rules of the Senate, and rammed through three hard right, hard ideological judges to the bench. They spent years encouraging radical legislatures as they passed scores of cruel restrictions on abortion. One of those laws is, unfortunately, about to be upheld in the Supreme Court. Republicans can run, but they can't hide from the horror they've created. Republicans can run, but they can't hide. They have two choices. They own it now, or, miracle of miracles, try to begin to undo the damage. And again, to my colleagues, to my fellow Americans, this is not an abstract exercise in the slightest. You know why that's true? Because the hard right is not treating it like an abstract exercise at all. In recent years, they've been racing, bolting, to pass unhinged, cruel, anti-choice legislation that would catapult women's rights back into the Stone Age. They've been preparing for this moment for years. The Mississippi law before the Supreme Court, for example, has zero exceptions for rape or incest, a position that would have been regarded on the extreme of the extreme not too long ago. Imagine telling a woman that she's raped, that some white male politician is going to do, a white male judge is going to determine whether she has to continue to carry the child, the fetus. In Arizona, the governor signed a law that could imprison anyone who provides, supplies, or administers an abortion by up to 5 years should Roe be overturned. Again, no exception for rape, no exception for incest. The infamous law in Texas, meanwhile, bans abortions as early as 6 weeks. Many women don't realize they're pregnant until after 6 weeks. And again, no exception for rape, no exception for incest. And unfortunately, these are not aberrations. 26 states have laws on the books that would begin the process of banning abortions if Roe is overturned. 13 of these trigger laws, meaning these bans would happen almost immediately after the Supreme Court decision. This, it seems, is what the hard right wants. Forced pregnancies, no exception for rape, no exception for incest. Republican politicians are telling America's women, your body, our choice. We cannot allow this vision of America to succeed. Come next week, Senate Republicans will have to answer for everything they've done over the years to embolden the hard right's hostility against a woman's choice. They've tried to hide what they're doing. They've tried to downplay what they're doing. Those days are over. You're coming clean, not clean really at all. Everyone's going to know what you've done and how you feel. Leader McConnell can duck at press conferences when asked if he's happy to see Roe v. Wade go by the wayside, but he won't be able to duck it any longer. So, our view that America cannot allow this vision of America to succeed. Come next week, Senate Republicans will have to answer for everything they've done over the years to embolden the hard right's hostility against a woman's choice. They will not be able to hide from the American people and cannot hide their role in bringing Roe to an end. The vote will tell next week. America will be watching. Now, on a different note, last night the Senate took another important step towards finalizing our bipartisan jobs and competition legislation that's been in the works for over a year. I thank all my colleagues last night for voting swiftly to process 26 motions to instruct the conference committee. Many of these were done by voice, and I appreciate everyone's hard work. We sat in our seats. No one at noon yesterday with 26 motions to instruct thought we'd finish by 10 p.m. or even any point yesterday, but we have. That's good work. There's still a lot of work to do, of course, before we send the jobs bill to the President's desk. And I hope we'll see the same bipartisan, good faith work in the conference that we saw last night on the floor of the Senate. We all know that no one is going to get everything they want, but if we keep working together, I'm confident we can come up with a strong final product. Our jobs and competition bill is just what the doctor ordered: to boost our economy, bring manufacturing jobs back home, and most of all, lower costs for American families. It's great news for American families who want to see lower costs on daily essentials. It's great news for workers who want to see good-paying manufacturing jobs brought back from overseas. It's great news for our businesses who need help strengthening our supply chains. And it's great news for our innovators, workers, scientists, universities, and creators who will help us create new technologies and generate the next wave of good-paying jobs this century. I thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who worked in good faith to help us reach this point. And one final note: protecting pregnant working women. As we all continue reckoning with the implications of the Supreme Court's horrible decision, the one that seems to be coming down the pike, the Senate must also support the needs of pregnant women facing discrimination in the workplace. Recently, the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions reported bipartisan legislation that would prevent employers from forcing pregnant workers out of the job or deny them reasonable accommodations in the workplace. In the House, a similar bill also passed with strong bipartisan support, and the Senate should do the same. Mother's Day is just around the corner. Happy Mother's Day to my mom of 93. Mother's Day is just around the corner, so I call on my colleagues to finalize strong, bipartisan legislation that will make a meaningful difference in the lives of millions of working, pregnant women. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will